Ambassador Jack Mercer sat in the back row of the Galactic Council chambers, the same seat humanity had been given for 30 years. It was far from the center, far from the light, and far from any real power. The seat was a message, and Jack understood it perfectly. Humanity was tolerated, not respected. The council chamber was a massive dome of white stone and floating lights. Representatives from 47 species filled the circular rows of seats, their voices mixing into a constant hum of alien languages. At the center stood the speaking platform, and on it stood High Arbiter Vrelox, the ancient leader of the council. His gray skin was stretched tight over a skeletal frame, and his 4 eyes moved slowly across the room as he spoke. "We shall now address the matter of the Kepler border incident," Vrelox announced. His voice cold and formal. Jack felt his stomach tighten. He already knew what was coming. It was always the same. Ambassador Thrixian of the Velothi Dominion rose from his seat. He was tall and covered in dark blue scales, with a mouth full of sharp teeth that he loved to show when he smiled. And he was smiling now. "Honored Council," Thrixian began. "3 days ago, a human vessel attacked one of our civilian transports near the Kepler system. 14 Velothi citizens were killed. We demand justice." Murmurs filled the chamber. Jack stood slowly. "High Arbiter," Jack said, keeping his voice calm, "I have evidence that proves this attack was not committed by any human vessel. Our ships were nowhere near the Kepler system on that date. I have sensor logs, communication records, and testimony from neutral observers." He held up a small data device. "The attack was committed by pirates flying false identification codes. The energy signatures match Velothi weapons, not human ones. This was a setup." Thrixian laughed. "Human lies. This is what they do. They smile and talk about peace while they murder our people." "The evidence is clear," Jack said, his voice still steady. "I ask only that the council review it before making any decision." High Arbiter Vrelox looked at the data device in Jack's hand for a long moment. Then he looked away. "Humanity is known for deception," Vrelox said. "The evidence will not be reviewed. The council will proceed with the Velothi claim." Jack felt something cold settle in his chest. 30 years. For 30 years, humanity had accepted every false accusation, paid every unfair fine, and apologized for crimes they never committed. They had done it because they believed in peace. They had done it because they thought that one day the galaxy would see them as equals. But that day never came. "The Velothi Dominion demands compensation," Thrixian announced loudly. "We require humanity to surrender the entire Kepler colony system. 3 planets and all resources. This is the price of their aggression." The chamber buzzed with voices. Some species looked uncomfortable, but none of them spoke against it. They never did. Jack opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, his communicator vibrated against his wrist. He glanced down at the screen and felt his blood turn to ice. The message was from Captain Sam Hartley of the human vessel Endurance. It was marked Emergency Priority. Jack stepped back from the speaking floor and read the message quickly. A Velothi warfleet had surrounded the human colony world of New Haven. 3 million civilians were trapped on the surface, including Dr. Kate Sullivan and her entire medical relief team. The Velothi were blocking all food and medicine shipments. They were starving the colony. Jack looked up at Thrixian. The Velothi ambassador was still smiling, his sharp teeth gleaming in the light. He knew. He had planned this. "High Arbiter," Jack said, his voice cutting through the noise. "I have just received word that a Velothi fleet has blockaded New Haven, a human colony with 3 million civilians. They are preventing humanitarian aid from reaching the surface. Children are going to die." Vrelox blinked his 4 eyes slowly. "That is a Velothi internal security matter. The Council has no authority to intervene. Internal security? Jack repeated. They are blockading a human world. They are attacking our people. The Velothi have the right to protect their borders, Vrelok said. If humanity had not committed aggression, this would not be necessary. We committed no aggression. I have proof. The proof has been rejected. Jack stood very still. The chamber was silent now. Every alien eye was watching him, waiting to see what the human would do. They expected him to bow. They expected him to apologize. They expected him to beg. He had done that for 30 years. He was done. I move that the Council vote on immediate action to lift the blockade and provide humanitarian aid to New Haven. Jack said. Motion denied, Vrelok said without hesitation. Thrixion laughed again. Look at them, he said to the chamber. Look at the humans. So weak, so afraid. They talk about evidence and justice, but they do nothing. They will always do nothing. They are not warriors. They are not leaders. They are nothing. Several species joined in the laughter. The sound filled the chamber like poison. Jack did not move. He did not speak. He simply stood there, his face completely calm, his eyes fixed on some distant point that no one else could see. Then, very slowly, he raised his wrist communicator to his lips. This is Ambassador Mercer, he said quietly. Patience protocol is terminated. Notify Earth. The words were simple. The words were soft. But they carried the weight of 30 years of suffering, 30 years of injustice, and 30 years of silence. Somewhere across the galaxy, the message spread. It reached every human ship, every human station, and every human colony. It reached the hidden places that no alien species knew about. It reached the shipyards that had been building in secret. It reached the soldiers who had been waiting. In the council chamber, no one noticed. They were still laughing, but Counselor Yema noticed something. She was a quiet representative from the Selthari race, a species that had always treated humans with respect. She had studied human history. She knew their stories. And she saw something in Jack Mercer's eyes that made her go very still. For 30 years, Jack had always smiled. He had always been polite. He had always been patient. He was not smiling now. Yema leaned forward in her seat, her heart beating faster. She wanted to warn the council. She wanted to tell them that they had made a terrible mistake. But she knew they would not listen. They never listened. Jack Mercer turned and walked toward the chamber doors. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. At the door, he paused and looked back at the council one final time. You had 30 years to treat us as equals, he said. You chose this. Then he was gone, and the doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. Captain Sam Hartley stood on the bridge of the Endurance and watched the message scroll across his screen. Patience protocol terminated. 3 words that changed everything. He had served in the human fleet for 22 years. He had been insulted by alien customs officers. He had watched human traders get cheated in markets across the galaxy. He had attended funerals for diplomats who died because alien hospitals refused to treat them. And through all of it, he had followed orders. He had stayed patient. He had waited. The waiting was over. Lieutenant Torres, Sam said quietly, send confirmation to Earth Command. Then set course for Rally Point 7. Lieutenant Ben Torres, a young man with sharp eyes and steady hands, nodded once. Yes, Captain. Course laid in. The Endurance turned away from the council station and jumped into faster-than-light travel. As the stars stretched into lines of light, Sam allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. On the colony world of New Haven, Dr. Kate Sullivan stood in the middle of a crowded hospital and tried not to show her fear. The building was full of sick and injured people. The medicine cabinets were nearly empty. Food supplies would last maybe another week. And above them, blocking out the stars, sat 40 Velothi warships. Kate walked through the rows of beds, checking on patients and offering what comfort she could. She stopped beside a young mother holding a crying baby. The child was hungry. They were all hungry. The supply ships will get through, Kate said gently. Just hold on a little longer. The mother looked up at her with tired eyes. Will they? The Velothi said they would shoot down any ship that tries to land. Kate did not have an answer. She squeezed the woman's hand and moved on. In her pocket, her communicator buzzed. She pulled it out and read the message from Earth Command. Patient's protocol terminated. Help is coming. Hold your position. Kate closed her eyes and let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. She did not know exactly what the message meant, but she knew it meant something big. After 30 years of watching humanity bow and scrape and apologize, something had finally changed. She just hoped it would change in time. Across the galaxy, alien intelligence agencies began to notice strange things. Human diplomatic vessels were leaving their posts and returning to human space. Human trading ships were abandoning profitable routes and going dark. Human communication channels, usually full of chatter, had gone almost completely silent. In the intelligence center of the Velothi Dominion, analysts studied their screens with growing confusion. They are running away, one analyst said. The humans are afraid. Commander Zeth, the military leader of the Velothi fleet blockading New Haven, received this report with satisfaction. He was a decorated warrior with dozens of victories against weaker species. Humans were just another weak species. They talked about peace because they could not fight. They showed mercy because they did not have the strength to be cruel. Let them run, Zeth said. When they come crawling back to beg for their colony, we will make them pay even more. His officers laughed. It was a good joke. Everyone knew humans were cowards, but not everyone was laughing. On the council station, Counselor Yema sat alone in her quarters and read through old files about human history. She had always been curious about the young species from the small blue planet. They were so different from other races. They smiled when they were angry. They helped enemies who had tried to kill them. They built hospitals on worlds that had rejected them. And sometimes, very rarely, they stopped smiling. Yema read about a place called Normandy, where humans had crossed a violent sea to free people they had never met. She read about a place called Stalingrad, where humans had fought in frozen ruins until their enemies broke. She read about a place called Hiroshima, where humans had unleashed fire that burned like a star. Humans were patient. Humans were kind. But when their patience ended, they became something else entirely. Yema requested an emergency meeting with High Arbiter Relox. She was granted 5 minutes. High Arbiter, she said, I believe we have made a serious mistake. The humans are not retreating. They are preparing. Relox looked at her with his 4 cold eyes. Preparing for what? They have no real military. They have spent 30 years doing nothing but talking. That is what worries me, Yema said. 30 years is a long time. Long enough to build things in secret. Long enough to plan. Relox waved one thin hand dismissively. You give them too much credit. Humans are weak. It is their nature. They will accept whatever we decide, as they always have. High Arbiter, please. Their history shows that when they finally act, they act with terrible force. We should open negotiations. We should find a peaceful solution before this goes too far. The solution has already been decided, Relox said. The Velothi will take the Kepler system. The humans will accept it. This meeting is over. Yema left the High Arbiter's chambers with a heavy heart. She had tried. It was not enough. Deep in human space, in shipyards hidden inside asteroid fields and hollow moons, 400 warships powered up their engines for the first time. They were not the small patrol vessels that alien species had seen. They were massive, sleek, and covered in weapons that no alien scientist had ever imagined. For 30 years, while humanity smiled and apologized and paid unfair fines, they had been building. They had taken every insult and turned it into fuel. They had studied every species that mocked them and learned their weaknesses. They had prepared for the day when patience would no longer be enough. That day had come. Captain Sam Hartley brought the Endurance to Rally Point 7 and felt his breath catch in his throat. The space around him was filled with ships. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and battleships stretched out in every direction, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "All ships reporting ready, Captain," Lieutenant Torres said, his voice hushed with awe. Sam nodded slowly. "Open a channel to the fleet." The channel clicked open, and Sam spoke to 400 ships and 50,000 sailors. "This is Captain Hartley of the Endurance. For 30 years, we chose peace. We chose patience. We chose to believe that the galaxy could be fair. Today, we have learned that fairness must be earned. Today, we stop asking. Today, we take our place among the stars. All ships, set course for New Haven. We have people to save." The fleet moved as one, jumping into faster-than-light travel with perfect coordination. The stars bent around them as they raced toward the blockade, and as they traveled, Ambassador Jack Mercer broadcast a single message to every species in the galaxy. It was short. It was simple. It was the most frightening thing any of them had ever heard. "For 30 years, we chose peace. You chose this." The silence that followed was deafening. Commander Zeth stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the sensor screens with lazy confidence. His fleet of 40 warships held perfect position around New Haven. Nothing could get through. Nothing would dare to try. Then the alarms started screaming. "Commander," his sensor officer shouted. "Contacts emerging from faster-than-light travel." "Many contacts." Zeth straightened in his chair. "How many?" The officer's voice shook as he answered. 400. "Commander, there are 400 human warships." The words did not make sense. Humans did not have warships. Humans had patrol boats and cargo haulers and medical vessels. They did not have a battle fleet, but the sensors did not lie. Across the dark space around New Haven, hundreds of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They moved together like a single creature, smooth and silent and deadly. Their hulls were covered in weapons that glowed with strange energy. Their engines burned with blue fire. It was impossible. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. Commander Zeth found his voice. "All ships, battle formation. Prepare to engage." His officers hesitated. One of them, a young female with fear in her eyes, spoke quietly. "Commander, we are outnumbered 10 to 1. Perhaps we should withdraw and request support." "Withdraw?" Zeth snarled. "From humans? They are bluffing. Those ships are probably empty shells. They do not know how to fight. We will crush them and prove once and for all that the Velothi Dominion fears nothing." He jabbed his finger at the communication panel. "All ships, attack. Show these humans what happens to those who challenge us." The Velothi fleet surged forward, weapons charging, ready for an easy victory. They did not get one. The first human volley tore through the Velothi formation like wind through leaves. Energy beams that burned hotter than stars sliced through shields that were supposed to be unbreakable. Missiles that moved faster than anything the Velothi had ever seen struck with perfect accuracy. In the first 30 seconds, 6 Velothi warships lost power and began to drift. Commander Zeth stared at his screens in disbelief. "That is impossible. Our shields should have held. Our armor should have protected us. Their weapons are too advanced," his tactical officer cried. "We have nothing that can match them. Commander, we have to retreat." But it was too late to retreat. The human fleet moved around the Velothi ships like water around stones, cutting off every escape route, trapping them in a cage of fire and steel. On the bridge of the Endurance, Captain Sam Hartley watched the battle with calm eyes. Beside him, Lieutenant Ben Torres called out targeting solutions and damage reports. Everything was going exactly as planned. "Captain," Torres said, "the Velothi flagship is trying to break through our line. Should we destroy it?" Sam shook his head. "No. Disable their engines and weapons. Leave their life support intact." Torres looked surprised. "Sir, we are not here to kill Lieutenant. We are here to protect our people and send a message. Dead enemies cannot learn lessons. Humiliated enemies remember forever." Torres nodded slowly and relayed the orders. The human fleet adjusted its fire, striking with surgical precision to disable rather than destroy. On the surface of New Haven, Dr. Kate Sullivan watched the sky light up with distant explosions. She stood outside the hospital with dozens of patients and staff, all of them staring upward with hope and fear mixed together. "What is happening up there?" the young mother asked, clutching her baby close. Kate watched a Velothi ship fall out of formation, trailing smoke and fire, but still intact. She watched human vessels sweep past it without finishing it off. "We are winning," Kate said quietly, "and we are showing them who we really are." The battle lasted less than 2 hours. When it was over, all 40 Velothi warships drifted helplessly in space. Their weapons were destroyed. Their engines were dead. But their crews were alive, trapped inside metal shells, waiting to see what the humans would do next. Commander Zeth sat in his darkened bridge, surrounded by the smell of smoke and the sound of failing systems. He had lost. He had lost completely and totally, and he had not managed to destroy even a single human ship. The communication panel crackled to life. A human voice spoke, calm and steady. "This is Captain Sam Hartley of the Endurance. Commander Zeth, your fleet has been disabled. Your crews are unharmed. We are sending rescue vessels to provide medical assistance and emergency supplies. You will be returned to Velothi space once your people are safe." Zeth could not believe what he was hearing. "You are helping us? After we blockaded your colony? After we tried to kill you?" "Yes," Sam said simply. "We do not kill when we do not have to. Remember that we chose mercy today. Remember it well." The channel closed. Zeth sat in silence, trying to understand what had just happened. He had spent his entire life believing that strength meant cruelty. He had believed that mercy was weakness. He had believed that humans were cowards because they did not fight. Now he understood. Humans had the power to destroy his entire fleet. They had the power to kill every Velothi soldier under his command. And they had chosen not to. That was not weakness. That was something far more terrifying. That was strength so complete that it did not need to prove itself through blood. Across the galaxy, species that had mocked humanity gathered around screens and watched recordings of the battle. They saw the impossible fleet. They saw the advanced weapons. They saw the perfect tactics. And they saw the mercy. In the council chamber, High Arbiter Vrelox received a priority message demanding that humanity stand down immediately. He sent it to Ambassador Jack Mercer with the full authority of the Galactic Council behind it. Jack's response came back within minutes. It contained a single word: no. Vrelox read the message 3 times, unable to believe his eyes. No species had ever defied the Council so directly. No species had ever dared. Counselor Yema appeared at his door. "High Arbiter, you need to see the battle recordings. The humans have done something remarkable. They have committed an act of war," Vrelox snapped. "No," Yema said quietly. They have won a war. And then they stopped. They did not advance. They did not invade. They saved their people and showed mercy to their enemies. They are waiting to see what we will do next. Relox felt something cold growing in his chest. It was a feeling he had not experienced in centuries. It was fear. What do they want? He asked. I believe, Yema said. They want what they have always wanted. Justice, respect, equality. The difference is that now they have the power to demand it. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. I suggest the council listen this time. I do not think they will ask twice. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so full. Representatives from every species in the galaxy had come to witness the emergency session. They filled every seat and lined the walls, their voices creating a nervous hum that echoed off the high ceiling. Everyone knew that something historic was about to happen. They just did not know what. High Arbiter Vrelox stood at the center platform, his four eyes moving across the crowd with growing unease. For the first time in his long life, he did not feel in control. Ambassador Thrixian of the Velati Dominion was already speaking, his voice loud and angry. This is an outrage. Humanity has attacked our peaceful fleet. They have committed an act of war against a council member. All species must unite against this threat. We must crush them before they become too powerful. Several representatives murmured in agreement, but many others stayed silent, their eyes fixed on the main entrance. They were waiting for the humans. The great doors swung open, and Ambassador Jack Mercer walked in. He was alone. He wore the same simple suit he always wore, and his face was calm and still. But something was different. There was a weight to his presence that had not been there before. Every eye in the chamber followed him as he walked down the center aisle. He did not go to his usual seat in the back. Instead, he walked all the way to the speaking platform at the center of the room. High Arbiter Vrelox stepped aside, too surprised to object. Jack looked out at the assembled species. He took a slow breath and began to speak. 30 years ago, humanity came to this council asking for nothing but friendship. We were young. We were hopeful. We believed that the galaxy was a place of justice and cooperation. His voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the chamber. No one moved. No one spoke. In those 30 years, we have been accused of crimes we did not commit. We have paid fines for damages we did not cause. We have apologized for insults that were never given. We have watched our diplomats die in hospitals that refused to treat them. We have buried children who starved because relief ships were turned away. Jack paused, and for a moment, his composure cracked. Pain flickered across his face before he controlled it again. We accepted all of this. We accepted it because we believed in peace. We believed that patience would earn us respect. We believed that one day, this council would see us as equals. He looked directly at High Arbiter Vrelox. We were wrong. Vrelox tried to speak, but Jack continued, his voice growing stronger. 3 days ago, the Velati Dominion blockaded New Haven, a human colony of 3 million people. They stopped food shipments. They stopped medical supplies. They were going to starve our children to death. And when I brought evidence that the accusations against us were false, this council refused to even look at it. He held up a data device. I have something else now. Something this council will look at. The chamber screens flickered to life, displaying documents, recordings, and financial records. For 30 years, humanity has been watching. We have been gathering evidence. We have documented every bribe, every secret deal, every time this council broke its own laws for political gain. We know about the secret agreement between the Velothi and the Arbiter's office. We know about the stolen technologies sold to hostile powers. We know about the colonies that were sacrificed to keep certain species happy. Gasps and shouts erupted across the chamber. Several representatives jumped to their feet, pointing and yelling. "This is a lie," Thrixion screamed. "Human deception. You cannot believe them." "The evidence is verified," Jack said calmly. "Every document is authenticated. Every recording is genuine. If this council does not act with justice today, all of it will be released to every species in the galaxy. The corruption will be exposed. The lies will be revealed." High Arbiter Vrelox finally found his voice. "You dare to threaten the council? You dare to blackmail us?" "I dare to demand what humanity has always asked for," Jack replied. "Justice, fairness, the simple respect that every species deserves. We did not want power. We did not want war. We wanted to be treated as equals. You refused. So now we take what you would not give." The chamber fell silent. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone present. Counselor Yema rose from her seat. Her voice was clear and steady as she spoke. "I move that the council formally investigate the actions of the Velothi Dominion against the human colony of New Haven. I further move that humanity be granted full equal standing in this council, with all the rights and protections that status provides." For a long moment, no one responded. Then, slowly, a representative from the Kandari Federation stood. "I second the motion." Another representative stood. Then another. And another. Thrixion looked around wildly. A species that had always supported the Velothi turned against them. "You cannot do this. We are a founding member of this council. We have rights." "You had the right to act with honor," Yema said quietly. "You chose differently." The vote was called. One by one, species declared their position. The result was overwhelming. Humanity was granted full equal standing. The Velothi Dominion was ordered to withdraw from all human territory and pay reparations for the blockade. Thrixion stood frozen, his scales turning pale with shock. Then, without a word, he turned and walked out of the chamber. The rest of the Velothi delegation followed him. High Arbiter Vrelox remained at his platform, looking old and defeated. He had ruled the council for 300 years. In a single day, his authority had crumbled. "Ambassador Mercer," Vrelox said slowly, "what do you intend to do with the evidence you have gathered?" Jack looked at him for a long moment. "That depends on what happens next. If this council keeps its promises and treats humanity fairly, the evidence stays locked away. If you return to your old ways, everyone will see the truth." Vrelox nodded slowly. He understood. The balance of power had shifted, and there was nothing he could do to change it back. Jack turned to face the assembly one final time. "Humanity does not want dominion over this galaxy. We do not want revenge for what was done to us. We want partnership. We want cooperation. We want peace. But it must be a peace built on respect, not submission. We will not be your scapegoat. We will not be your victim. We will be your equal, or we will stand alone. The choice is yours." He stepped down from the platform and walked toward the exit. As he passed Counselor Yema, he paused. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You were the only one who listened." Yema shook her head. "I was the only one who paid attention. There's a difference." Jack smiled for the first time in days. It was a tired smile, but it was real. "There is," he agreed. "I hope the others learn it soon." He walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a galaxy that would never see humanity the same way again. 1 month had passed as the Battle of New Haven, and the colony world was coming back to life. Supply ships landed every day, bringing food, medicine, and building materials. The streets that had been empty and afraid were now filled with people rebuilding their homes, and their Hope. Doctor, Kate Sullivan, walked through the main hospital. checking on patients and coordinating with her staff. The building was no longer overcrowded. The medicine cabinets were full. Children laughed in the hallways again, but Kate was not only treating human patients anymore. In the recovery ward, a Velothi soldier lay in bed with bandages wrapped around his chest. He had been injured during the battle when his ship lost power and crashed into another vessel. Human rescue teams had pulled him from the wreckage and brought him here. Kate stopped by his bed and checked his vital signs. "How are you feeling today?" The soldier looked at her with confused eyes. "Why are you helping me?" "My people tried to starve your colony." "Because you are hurt," Kate said simply. "That is reason enough." The soldier shook his head slowly. "I do not understand humans. We were your enemies. We still are your enemies. And yet, you save us. You heal us. You treat us like friends." Kate smiled gently. "We do not want enemies. We never did. We just want to live in peace with everyone. Maybe someday your people will understand that." She moved on to the next patient, leaving the Velothi soldier to think about her words. Outside the hospital, Captain Sam Hartley stood on a hill overlooking the colony. The Endurance floated in orbit above, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. It had become a symbol across the galaxy, the ship that led the fleet that humbled the Velothi and showed mercy when it did not have to. Lieutenant Ben Torres joined him on the hill. "Captain, we have received word from Earth Command. The Velothi Dominion has requested formal peace negotiations." Sam raised an eyebrow. "That was faster than I expected." "Their economy is collapsing," Torres explained. "The other species have stopped trading with them. No one wants to be associated with the people who tried to starve children. They need peace more than they want to admit." Sam nodded slowly. "Pride is expensive. I hope they learn that lesson well." He looked up at the stars, thinking about all the years of insults and unfairness that had led to this moment. It had been a long road. It had cost humanity so much patience and so much pain. But in the end, they had not become the monsters that others expected. They had won with strength and mercy. They had proved that they deserved their place among the stars. On the council station, Counselor Yema was settling into her new role as the official liaison between humanity and the Galactic Council. High Arbiter Vrelox had quietly stepped down from leadership, his authority broken by the exposure of council corruption. A new arbiter would be elected soon, and for the first time in history, humans would have a vote in choosing them. Yema met with Ambassador Jack Mercer in her new office. The room was small and simple, very different from the grand chambers of the old arbiter. "I wanted to thank you," Yema said. "Your people could have destroyed everything. Instead, you gave us a chance to fix our mistakes." Jack leaned back in his chair. "We were never interested in destruction. We just wanted to be heard." "You were heard," Yema said. "The entire galaxy heard you. And I think many species are finally starting to understand what humanity really is." "And what is that?" Yema considered the question carefully. "Patient, determined, dangerous when pushed too far. But ultimately, I think you are builders. You want to create things, not destroy them. You want to help, not hurt. You showed that even in your moment of greatest power." Jack smiled slightly. "We are not perfect. We have made plenty of mistakes in our history. But we try to learn from them. We try to be better. That is more than most species can say." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching ships pass by the station window. The galaxy was changing, and they were both part of that change. Far away, on a quiet balcony of the Velothi capital, Commander Zeth stood alone and watched the sunset. He had been removed from command after the disaster at New Haven. His career was over. His reputation was ruined, but he was alive. His crew was alive, and he could not stop thinking about why. The humans had beaten him completely. They had the power to wipe out his entire fleet. and they had chosen to save them instead. They had sent doctors to heal Velothi wounded. They had provided supplies to ships that had tried to kill them. Zeth had spent his whole life believing that strength meant cruelty. He had believed that mercy was something weak creatures used, because they could not be strong. The humans had shown him another way. Strength did not require cruelty. Mercy was not the absence of power. It was the choice of what to do with power once you had it. He did not know if his people would ever truly understand that lesson. But he understood it now. And that was something. Back on New Haven, night had fallen over the colony. The stars filled the sky, bright and clear and full of promise. Jack Mercer stood on the observation deck of the main government building, looking up at those stars. Kate Sullivan joined him, followed by Sam Hartley. The three of them had been through so much together. They had seen the worst of the galaxy, and they had helped show it the best of humanity. Do you think it will last? Kate asked. The peace, I mean. The respect we earned. Some of it will, Jack said. Some species have truly changed how they see us. Others are just afraid. Fear fades with time. So what do we do when the fear fades? Jack was quiet for a moment. We keep building. We keep helping. We keep being exactly who we are. Patience is still our greatest weapon. The difference is that now they know it has limits. Sam nodded slowly. And they know what happens when those limits are reached. Exactly. They stood together in silence. Three humans looking up at a galaxy that had finally accepted them as equals. It had taken 30 years of suffering and one terrible day of reckoning. But they had done it. They had earned their place not far below, in the streets of the colony. Children played under the stars. They ran and laughed and dreamed of futures among those distant lights. They did not know about the politics or the battles, or the painful history. They only knew that the sky was beautiful and the future was bright. And that was enough. Kate smiled as she watched them. Look at them. They have no idea what we went through to give them this moment. That is the point, Jack said softly. Every generation fights so the next one does not have to. Those children will grow up in a galaxy that respects them. They will never know what it felt like to be invisible. Is that not worth everything we suffered? Jack looked at the children, at the stars, at the future that humanity had finally claimed. Yes, he said. It is. The three of them stayed on that balcony until the moon rose over the colony, casting silver light across a world that was finally at peace. The galaxy had seen humanity's patience break. Now they would see what humanity could build, and it would be magnificent.